Let me take a drink of water before I hit. Got it.
I am so excited to have my friend, Susan Frager, on the show today. Susan, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited
Glad to be here.
Okay, I could do this introduction about you, but I way rather you tell us your story, how you went from being a therapist to medical billing company owner.
It's pretty accidental and almost kind of ironic, because the first I knew about medical billing was when I was working in an employee assistance program as a therapist. And we'd been bought by some big entity that I knew nothing about. I was just seeing a lot of clients and getting into people's problems. And then they handed us this version of whatever version of the 1500 form existed in 1993 and said, fill this out. And I went, you got to be bleep kidding me. I'm not going to fill that out. It looked like a bunch of boxes. I had no idea what it was. Yeah, irony of ironies, I became a medical biller. And guess what? I still don't fill it out. That's what computers are for. So I was still working as a therapist, didn't think anything of who owned whatever. And then a little later on, they said, okay, well, not only are you scheduling 36 patients a week so that you can achieve 32 kept sessions a week, which was our quota. And for those of you who maybe aren't mental health, typically full-time in the mental health world is 20 to 25 patients a week. So that was way a killer. Then on top of that, they said, okay, now you have an additional job and we're not going to pay you any extra, by the way, is because you're on salary, is we've got this contract with Blue Cross and we're going to go anytime anybody presents at the hospital for a psychiatric admission, we're going to send you out and you're going to interview the person and try to divert them. This was 1994, the beginnings of managed care as we know it. And I went, F no. I did have to go a couple times. It was pretty harrowing because there was nothing to divert the person to, and in some cases these people really did need to be hospitalized. They were pretty sick, and just the abuse on my body, my time, getting up at 3 a.m. and driving 25 miles to a hospital, it was pretty brutal. So what became kind of a pattern for me was the first time I did this, I looked at my career and went, what am I going to do for the next 4 decades? I didn't really feel like private practice was for me because, I was an okay clinician, but I wasn't anything special. And I was still pretty young, didn't have the connections, didn't have the referral base, didn't have the knowledge to be in private practice. So I took a lateral move and thought, I don't know what this care manager thing is, but how bad can it be, right? I was seeing 36 clients a week. I was exhausted. People would come back to me for their second session and I'd be sitting there going, okay, say something to trigger me to remember who you are. So I thought I could do less harm as a care manager. I didn't know what that entailed. Nobody ever told me. So I get up to what later became Magellan Behavioral Health, but at the time it was something else. I don't know. They went through, 3 or 4 different name changes in 4 or 5 years. And I found I was supposed to be reviewing treatment request forms with the idea of denying. Oh no. I tried to find everything I could do to make sure I would push that thing through. I don't think I ever denied anybody anything, but that was the goal. We had to rate providers on various things, such as how polite they were to us and their managed care friendliness. And I learned what I thought was a lot. That was just the tiny tip of the iceberg. I also had to do inpatient. It wasn't just outpatient. I had to do inpatient as well. Psych testing, all kinds of stuff. Then I got this harebrained idea that I would start this business to try to help therapists deal with this sick new reality called managed care. So I started it kind of, in a spare bedroom, at night on the weekend, doing people's treatment reports for them because I was still very much a clinician at this point. I didn't know anything about billing. And then it got big enough to where I could do it during the day, but I wasn't quite ready to cut loose. I needed a salary. So I moved to after hours call center, which was kind of nice because unless there was an emergency, you pretty much sat there. And during that, well, I won't say that. Around that time, I got a call from, I was featured in various publications at the time. I'm not sure how many of them even exist anymore. Psychotherapy Finances, I know definitely doesn't exist anymore. Family Therapy Network or may exist in a different form, but they featured me. And then one day I get a call from a publisher, John Wiley and Sons. Hey, you want to write a book for us? What? Who calls and asks you to write a book? Like, yeah. So I took a year, I wrote a book. And they were thinking that they were going to ghostwrite it for me, but I actually wrote it on my own. Of course, at the time, I thought I knew a lot and didn't know anything really, just the tiny tip of the iceberg. And of course, now it's out of print and hopelessly out of date. Maybe a couple chapters aren't. That has to do with breaking onto closed panels or maybe negotiating fee increases. But other than that, totally out of date now. It was published in 2000, and that's when I brought up the courage and said, okay, I'm leaving. And then people started saying, hey, would you bill for us? I'm like, well, how hard can it be, right? So I studied up, probably didn't do much more than a lot of new billers, just read the manual and learned all about that 1500 form. Went through 2 or 3 software packages that were unsatisfactory before I found one that I stayed with for a while. And it just kind of snowballed. People referred their friends, their colleagues, people heard about me through the book. So that's why I ended up with a kind of stable of mental health providers that were all over the country rather than just situated locally where I was. And at the time that was St. Louis. So I learned how to bill in multiple geographical areas, which meant going in and learning about the Medicaid in that area, the payers in that area, how things were different. And it got kind of a familiar pattern. Oh, I take a new state. Okay, well, let's start and learn about it. And then as the internet grew, it became easier and easier to do that. So for a few years, I was still filling out those silly little treatment forms. And I got really tired of that. And finally I said, nope, not going to do it anymore. It's not worth it. It's too much of my time. And I was just rehashing the same words over and over. And eventually, a couple of years later, they did away with that. And now we're in the current system of just submitting your claims, and then they'll audit you on the back end. And you have to defend yourself with your records, or maybe a care manager will call you and say, hey, can you justify continued treatment? So I still sometimes call anxious clinicians when they get those calls and their letters going, it's okay. Tell me about it. Yeah, I'm safe. And they'll tell me, and I'll say, okay, here's how you need to frame it. And so I still do a little bit of that, but it's more consultative. 20 some years later, here we are. It's really a new world. The pandemic brought a lot of challenges in terms of telehealth coding, all the craziness that everybody's struggling with. The software landscape has changed tremendously. And my challenges, I'm sure they're not unique. I'm sure other small billing company owners have them. But like a lot of people, I think during the pandemic, hit a wall, hit some burnout, and thought, what can I do to rev myself up? Because I've still got a few years left. And I came up with this other crazy idea. Again, we're sidestepping, because I've always had a segment of my practice where people just call me at random and say, hey, can I pick your brain for half an hour? And I charge them whatever. And it was the sort of thing that, okay, little extra money this month, but I didn't ever think I could survive on it. But I thought, well, let's look at my caseload. I had a client that was challenging me in a lot of ways. I decided I was going to take the plunge, pull the plug, which is always hard for a billing company owner. I think everybody has to go through that when they have a client that for whatever reason just isn't working out and they want to go off in a different direction. So I looked at the numbers. I said, okay, let's do this. And I thought about, what about all these therapists out there? Because I would get so many calls from therapists that, oh, I see 5 patients a week. I see 10 patients a week. Well, it's not enough for a billing company owner to take that on, because when you do all the setup and everything, you do almost as much work for 10 patients as you do for 30 patients or 50 patients, but you're not getting the financial rewards if you're billing on a percentage. And if you quote them a flat fee, they're going to say, oh, that's too much, which, you know, if you're only making a couple $1,000s a month, it is too much. Well, those people definitely do deserve help, but maybe they don't need a billing service. So I thought, well, what about some sort of an online answer center, backstopper, go-to insurance person who can just give them their knowledge when they need it. And I've actually been doing it for quite a while without ever formalizing it. So your billing buddy was born by just watching it, seeing people's reactions, and thinking this would be a way to kind of recharge my batteries. And it's been a blast. So since last October, I've been working on content, website development, getting an LLC, all the stuff that you need for starting a new business, which I hadn't done in quite a while. And doing e-commerce has definitely been a learning experience for me. That's not something I ever thought I would do. So it's very, very exciting, and I'm just enjoying the process.
I love having known you for so many years, watching you go through this process. And I love this idea of your billing buddy, because people really do need help and they don't know where to go. And the internet is overwhelming, has an overwhelming amount of information, but not focused information the way you are, just so focused on this mental health market segment. So I think that's awesome. What I really like, Susan, is, you know, we belong to HBMA, and I know you've been a member for many years, and we have a message board, and you know, get on there and people are asking questions, and you're always one of the first to respond to our network of professionals. And I just wonder, like, what riles you up? Like, what about our industry? You know, because we've both been in this industry for a long time. But what's something that upsets you or drives you crazy about what we do?
I'm laughing because anybody who knows me from HBMA knows what I'm going to say. 3 words: virtual credit cards. Enough said. I'm not going to go on a rant. I promised you I'm not going to go on a rant. This is about your billing buddy. Seriously, the difficulties in contracting and credentialing, I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. And for the smaller billing companies, I'd have to say the absolute unaffordability of technology to keep pace with the needs. And that was really another driver behind your billing buddy. Was I did a lot of research on how I could integrate with my clients from a technical standpoint. And a lot of them are using what I call do-it-yourself billing programs, which are meant for the smaller practitioner. And they're fine as far as they go for a solo or a 2-person practice, seeing just a small number of clients. But when you're talking about a billing service, you need more bells and whistles, and these programs don't have them. They're not meant to have them. They're they're meant for a small budget, and that's fine. But as a biller, I need something much more robust, but it comes with a higher price tag. And with the price pressures these days, there's really no way to, you're kind of boxed in. You can't increase your fees to your customers. They're just going to go elsewhere. Some other billing company charges 4%. Okay, bye. If I take on the software responsibility, that cuts my margins down to nothing, and they were thin to begin with. So what do you do? For a long time, I was just what I call a human interface, doing a lot of double work between the DIY software and mine. And I got really tired of it. It was not challenging me. It was a drudge. And so again, theme of my life, sidestep, try to find a creative way. And so your billing buddy was a way to have people tap my brain and use the skills that I've learned in dealing with payers and getting complex situations fixed, and not so much the data entry, routine claim submission, which really anybody can do on a DIY platform. It's when things go wrong that people billing for yourself, they don't have a clue. And I hate to see people just say, oh, well, the insurance company won again, I'll just let it go, when it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So do you have any favorites when it comes to software, of the software that you really like and the ones that would you care to share that? Some of the practice management, like, do you have some that you recommend?
Are you talking about, I'm not sure I can answer that question, because if you're talking about the do-it-yourself software, or are you talking about medical billing company kind of software?
So from the practitioner that's looking to start their practice and they want to do it themselves, do you have some of the practice management softwares that you like, that you recommend?
You, not sure I want to go there. They all, no, seriously, they all have pluses and minuses. I've worked in pretty much three predominantly. That would be Office Ally, Simple Practice, Therapy Notes. They all have advantages and disadvantages. There are others I'm familiar with. I would just recommend to somebody going into practice that they take advantage of the free trial, try it out, look at, see how good is the help, the support. How easy is it for you to use? How easy does it make sense for you and what you need? And try to take an inventory of what you need. It isn't necessarily about what I think, because I don't know what you need. In terms
Okay.
of, yeah,
So it's custom because there's an
it
EMR
is.
component to it as well, and that you need to feel comfortable with.
Exactly.
Those are three, good products to explore and see if you like them or not. So thank you for that. Let's talk about the things that keep you up at night. Like, what worries you as a business owner in this space?
Gosh. Again, I don't think this is going to be any surprise to anybody who knows me. Compliance and cybersecurity are the two scary monsters out there, because we have so little control, especially over the cybersecurity. And all we can do is what's recommended to do, and hope that we don't come to the attention of some hacker on another part of the globe. And compliance is hard. I mean, even though I'm a member of the compliance accreditation with HBMA, and I use HCP all the time. I love them, and I'm so thankful to HBMA for putting that resource available, because as a small company, I didn't have it before. I couldn't be my own compliance officer. I don't have the knowledge. And so I'm thankful that there is the knowledge, and all you can do is the best you can do and try to demonstrate a commitment to it, and then hope that's enough. But yeah, it's scary.
Well, I know you and your high level of integrity and your commitment to compliance, and you sharing even with me your HCD experience, I think is really great. And that HBMA provides those resources, I think is really wonderful for billing companies. Okay, let's talk about the future. What excites you about the future ahead?
Your billing buddy. It is a blast, having such a blast, really opening practitioners' eyes to the fact that they have power, they can do it. And one of the things I like about it is it's tapping back into all that old clinical experience and training that I have not used for 2 decades. I see a lot of anxiety with psychologists, therapists. It's like, hey, you can do this. So I get to be a coach, a little bit of a clinician. Hey, let's take that anger and see what we at insurance companies and see what we can do to make them pay you for the work that you do. And I have taught people who I never thought would learn how to bill. I have taught them how to bill, and they're getting paid. And it is such a joy to see that. It reminds me of my first joy when I first started billing and my first claims came back paid. It's like, well, good for you. You can do this. And you're saving money because you don't have to pay a biller a percent on every claim. You only need me when you need me, but you know I'm here. And I really enjoy that.
That's wonderful. I could see your face light
Yeah.
up when you talk
Thank
about
you.
that joy of
Yeah.
getting the check and
Yeah.
knowing, "Ah, I did it. I made it happen." Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us where people can find you, Susan.
Yourbillingbuddy.com. We'll be doing all kinds of things. I've got educational offerings on there, blogs and newsletters. I'll be starting webinars probably towards the end of the summer, beginning of fall. If possible, I can do small group sessions of people coming together, clinicians coming together and talking about how they fix problems. I may be reaching out to the software companies if they're willing to work with me to see if they can use me to pick what's in this brain here for the benefit of their customers. So there's a lot I could do. The other thing I thought I could do, which again brings a lot of joy to me, is maybe help my fellow billers. And here's what I mean with that. Over the years, it's been incredibly frustrating as a billing company owner dealing with trying to get employees who really understand billing. A lot of the billing and coding schools is all about coding. Well, that's fine for certain specialties. Mental health, there's so few codes. I don't need anybody with a certified coder. And so the people who would graduate with certified coding, they'd be trained and gone because, yeah, it's boring. I mean, you're dealing with 5 or 6 codes. And people who maybe were front office types that I would hire didn't have enough experience with the payers, and they didn't have enough billing experience. The coders kind of looked down on billing, and I'm greatly over exaggerating. I don't mean to try to offend people, but I had a very hard time finding employees and training them. So another part of your billing buddy seriously can be for my colleagues. Maybe you're getting a lot of calls from people that are just not going to be good clients. Well, guess what? Now you can offload them on me and I'll take care of them for you. Or maybe you have staff that you think shows promise, but you just don't have time to train them. Send them my way. I can train a biller as easily as I can train a therapist. So that's what I enjoy. And so I'm gonna commit to it, and hopefully it'll work. And I'm assuring all my current clients, I'm not leaving you, I'm not pushing you out the door, but it's just, let's just stay with my current clients and then try to fill in the gap by training and being a billing buddy. And I'm really hopeful for the future.
Well, I'm excited for you. I think your
Thank you.
offering is amazing. I so appreciate your time. We're going to put a link to your Billing Buddy website in the show notes. Susan, I know you're on LinkedIn as well. People connect with you there. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your knowledge and your experience and your wisdom with all of us today.
Thanks, honey.